Hi guys, James at Rampant Lion Reviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one we are going to head over to Denmark, and I've got a beer that apparently is really quite an awesome one. So we're going to go to Indslev Bryggeri, who are from a town called Aaby, which is near the town of Middelfart on the island of Funen in Denmark, and we're going to have a taste of a beer from their Ugly Duck Brewing Company range that they do, and this one is the Imperial Vanilla Coffee Porter. It's got a rating of 97 on Rate Beer, so it should be a really quite nice one for us to try, and it seems to be really quite popular in Denmark actually, so should be a pretty top-notch beer. But anyway, as always, I'll tell you a little bit about the company. If you want to get straight to the tasting, just fast forward. All the usual websites are in the video description for you below. The brewery website, links to my other reviews that I'll do from these guys, and also the Facebook profile and the Untappd profile for the channel. And as always, please feel free to get in touch with me in whatever way you wish. It's always interesting to hear from you guys that watch the videos. So anyway, as I said just a second ago, Ugly Duck Brewing is one of the brands of beer that is produced by the Indslev Bryggeri, and these guys are based in Aaby, which is near the town of Middelfart on the island of Funen in Denmark. And I apologise if any of these Danish pronunciations are a little bit off. It's quite a hard language to master the pronunciation of, but if you just think roughly where Odense is in Denmark, you go to the northwest of that island, and Middelfart is at the end, and Aaby is just a little bit to the southeast of that. But the Indslev Brewery actually has roots tracing back to the year 1897, but they only reopened recently in 2006, and since 2012 they've also been brewing the Ugly Duck beers as well. But the brewery is owned by Anders Rasmussen, whose great-grandfather Frederick built the current brewery building, but this was built back in 1897. But both of them, both Anders and his great-grandfather Frederick, grew up on the family farm, which is right next to the brewery. But Indslev were actually the first modern brewery in Denmark to specialise in the brewing of wheat beer, and today they remain the only specialist wheat beer brewery in Denmark. So their desire to brew different beers in addition to their quite famous wheat beers was what led them to start the Ugly Duck Brewing Company as a kind of sidearm of their network, if you like. But the two brewers at the brewery are Stefan Peter Stadler, and he is from Munich originally, and he graduated as a brewer from Hofbräu, one of the very famous breweries of Munich, and he's worked in various German and Danish breweries as well. And there's also Torben Steenholt, who actually worked previously in Velia and for Brockhaus Brewery as well. But the brewery building has actually been modernised. If you go and look on the Indslev website, you'll find the link below. You'll see it's this really quite old looking barn building, but inside it's been modernised quite a lot. And they've actually got a brew kit in there from Kasper Schulz in Bamberg in Germany. If you know anything about brewing equipment, you'll know that Kasper Schulz is a really kind of top-notch kit. So that's your kind of brief history of the company itself. Just to list the beers you can get from these guys. So from under the Indslev name, obviously you've got a lot of different wheat beers. You've got the Sortfede, which is a black wheat beer, Svanefede, Speltbock, Påskefede, which is an Easter beer, Julefede, which is their Christmas beer, Fede IPA, which is a wheat IPA hybrid, Fide, which is a white wheat beer, Vedebock, which is a Weizenbock, Frederikspaustau, Frederick's Easter, named after his grandfather of course, Morkfede, which is a Dunkelweizen beer, a dark wheat beer, Frederick Yule, and Frokost, which Frokost is interesting, it's meant to be a lunch beer. And under the Ugly Duck brand they've got quite a few different ones as well. So there's the Imperial Vanilla Coffee Porter, Hoppy Christmas, Rye Porter, Helmut Keller beer, Miami Vice, Simcoe and Chinook IPA, Putin, Nelson Paleo, Ugly Christmas, Hop Devil, Foxy Brown, Papso in the Tropics, and the Amarillo and Citra IPA. So as you can tell, both beer brands have quite a little bit of variety behind them. So as I say, check out the brewery websites and you will get an idea of all of the different things they do, and do go and check them out if you get the chance. But anyway, let's get on to the tasting section of this beer. So I'll just let you have a little quick look at the artwork of this one before we open it up. As you can see, the Ugly Duck Brewing Company symbol on there. They've got a little video on their website that's quite funny. They say drink the beers before all the ugly ducks are killed during hunting season. So they basically want you to go out and buy their beer, and they're supposed to be quite nice. Plain bottle cap on this one. It says on the back, it's a beer that we've thought about for quite some time, actually since the brewers' first visit to Sherbrooke Liquor Store in Edmonton, Alberta, Canada a few years back, and finally I did it. I manned up and did it. After a whole freaking day of brewing coffee for this beer, I can truly say it is craft. The result is a big, bold, smooth porter with discreet vanilla and massive coffee notes, brewed with coffee from Grower's Cup, be sure to keep in the brewer's latest news at facebook.com/uglyduckbrewing. So I'll need to send them the video when I do this one. But this is a 9.5% porter beer. I do have the stats of it as well. So it's hopped with Cascade and Simcoe, and it's got a malt base of Pilsner, caramel, rye, oats, chocolate and black malts as well. And they also add a lot of vanilla and coffee to the brew for this one. So 9.5% porter from Aaby in Denmark on the island of Funen. So it should be a really nice one for us. So without further ado, let's get this guy open. So as you can see, a nice smoky opening with this guy here. But yeah, very, very nice looking beer actually. Just sugar it up a little bit and we'll get the rest of it out. Nice bit of head just forming on the top of it there. I actually thought this beer was 10%, and I'm sure on the website it said it was 10%, but on the back it says it's 9.5%, so we'll forgive them for that. It's a little bit weaker, but I'll need to check that actually. But yeah, 9.5% porter beer, this one. So I'll just bring up the camera and check. You can see the colour of this beer quite nicely. But yeah, so you can see it's poured a really kind of dark, pretty much black ebony colour there, just let you see exactly what it's coming out like. But there's a nice finger of a frothy beigey tan head on this one. There's one or two little bits of sediment just in the bottom of the glass there, and that's typical with these craft beers. So there's some big bubbles of carbonation just sticking towards the side, but quite a few little ones going up towards the bottom of the head. If I put my fingers behind it, as you would expect, just because of the colour of it, you're not going to see any transparency in that. It might well be a clear beer, but it really is pretty dark, so you're not going to see anything through that. But really nice looking porter beer, I have to say. So let's have a look at the aroma on this one. Just without even paying too much attention to it, you can smell the nice roasted coffee from this beer, and you can smell the vanilla coming out of it as well actually. But if you pay closer attention to it, there's a nice kind of it's actually quite a mild roasted coffee that's coming across in the aroma. But you can smell really that that is the thing that underpins the whole beer. It is quite prominent, even though it's a quite mild aroma that's coming off it. It's not overpowering really in any way, but there's a bit of dark caramel and molasses coming out of there. You can smell a sort of German rye bread aroma from this as well. And there's some sweet chocolate and kind of vanilla flavours coming out. It actually smells just a little bit kind of smoky or ashy too, which is quite interesting. So maybe that's the more of the coffee aroma coming out as well, really kind of smoked coffee. But yeah, there's a woody and nutty element as well, but a nice German rye bread element to this beer, and some sweet chocolate and vanilla coming out as well. But a really nice aroma, quite a mild one actually, but all of the little elements are there, so you need to pay a good bit of attention to it to pick up all the little elements that you get from the porter. But as I say, very malt forward aroma this guy, a lot of dark caramel and molasses, quite roasted as well, kind of smoky or ashiness, but the coffee in this one really is what underpins it, and you can get a sort of Germany rye bread flavour from this one, and that'll be the rye malts that are in there, but some sweet chocolate and vanilla as well, and woody and nutty little notes in there as well. So without further ado, let's get stuck into this guy. As I say, always give your beer a smell before you taste it, but it should be a really nice one. So this is the Imperial Coffee Vanilla Porter from Ugly Duck Brewing Company in Aaby, part of the Indslev Bryggeri in Denmark. Skål! Really nice actually. My first impression of it on the first taste is that it is actually quite sweet. Yeah, it comes across as being quite a sweet porter, this one. But that said, once your palate adjusts to it, you get more of the roasted coffee coming out, but overall it's a very smooth flavour, this one. The coffee is nice and it is quite prominent, but it's very smooth, and then it comes out a little bit more in the aftertaste. The dry and bitter character that you normally expect of coffee really builds as you move into the aftertaste of this beer. But there definitely is a nice more of a kind of nice smooth milky character about this one in the start. So you've got a lot of sweet chocolate in there to begin with, and it just smooths over the palate. The vanilla is quite prominent, as you would expect when they're saying it's an Imperial vanilla coffee porter. But there's a nice sort of bready base to this. The middle of your palate is just blanketed with this very smooth German rye bread base. Not quite, it's not overpoweringly rye. It's almost like you get some of that pale malt, but you get a more rye flavour out of it. That just blankets the middle of your palate there, and as you go into the middle, you've got a bit of a kind of caramelly and slightly molasses sweetness that just goes right down the middle of the palate, and that vanilla is just infused in that, and you're getting a little bit of a wood and nutty flavour coming out of the beer there too as well. It's really quite nice. And you'll feel a little bit of an oily bubble behind the very front curve of your tongue as well. And you can feel a little bit of the kind of fruity characters from the Cascade and the Simcoe hops coming out. There is just a little touch of a slightly, just a very small citrusy and tropical fruit in there. If it's maybe it's not quite grapefruit, it is maybe just a little bit of a mix between orange and grapefruit, but you can definitely pick out just a little oily character there, and there is a bit of that kind of Northwest Pacific Coast fruitiness to this one as well. It's quite interesting that actually, and it actually works really well for the beer. A lot of porters you'll get from England and things like that will use the likes of Bramling's Cross or Fuggles hops or something like that, but this one uses the American hops, and that that nice little subtle characteristic of fruity flavour that you get actually works really well with the rest of the beer too. It's a little interesting kind of quirk to the beer. But yeah, around the edges of the tongue you're getting a little bit, at the back of the palate, in the very back corners, you're getting a little bit of earthy hop character, and it smooths out a little bit as you go around the very edges of the tongue. It is quite earthy, but maybe just slightly grassy at the very front of the tongue too, but mainly a nice earthy hop character around the edge of the palate there. It's a really quite beautiful porter beer, this one. I really quite like this. But yeah, the coffee flavour definitely builds a bit more as you move into the aftertaste of this beer. What's interesting about this one is just how well the flavours blend together. That earthy hop character gives you a good little bridge between the sort of rye bread malt base on this and all the other things on top of it, like the vanilla, the wood and the nutty flavours as well, and the sweet chocolate. There's a lot of flavour in this beer, and it's beautifully done. There's not much more you can say about it. It's really a very nice porter, so if you do come across it and you enjoy the porter style, particularly if you like vanilla flavours and coffee flavours as well, then it's definitely worth having a go at. It's not rated 97 on Rate Beer for nothing. It is really nicely done. But yeah, in terms of the mouthfeel of this one, I would definitely say probably mid-bodied to full-bodied, somewhere in between that. The mid to full body is a good way to describe this beer. The carbonation is quite smooth, and it does have quite an oily texture, this one. So as I said, that helps bring out some of these little fruity flavours, but it also helps the dark kind of caramelly and molasses flavours, and also the vanilla that's in this one as well. It helps that quite well, but there's a bit of a dark, roasty, bitter character to this, and that comes out a bit more in the aftertaste, and that's the coffee flavour starting to punch their way forward. There is a bit of a smoky or ashy character to the coffee as well, which is quite interesting. And there's a little bit of bitterness from that too, but there's a good bit of sweetness to the malt character. As I say, the kind of rye bread has a little bit of sweetness, the caramel is a little bit sweet too, and also the nice vanilla flavours as well. And there is just a little bit of juiciness from the American hops in this beer too, just behind the very front curve of your tongue. But there is a good bit of alcohol warmth that comes from this beer too, and that comes out a bit as you actually get into the beer. But overall, this is a really quite nice porter, one of the best ones I've reviewed in quite a while actually, one of the best porter beers. So if you do come across it, then I would say give it a go. The Imperial Vanilla Coffee Porter from Ugly Duck Brewing Company, part of the Indslev Bryggeri in Aaby in Denmark. So do go and check them out. They've got a nice range of beers as well. As I say, go and check out both the brewery websites and you will get an idea of the different stuff. Check out the Indslev ones if you enjoy wheat beers, but if you enjoy the more American styles of beer, then probably, pardon me, the Ugly Duck Brewing Company are more what you're after. But this is a really beautiful Danish beer, and Denmark seems to be a country that has a hell of a lot of nice beer coming from it now, so I'm sure I'll be reviewing many of these for you in the future now that I'm based in Lund in Sweden. But anyway, I hope you've enjoyed this beer review. Been really cool to do another Danish one for you. As always, please let me know in the comment section below your own thoughts on this beer if you do happen to have tried it before. To my Danish viewers, please let me know some other Danish beers to have a go of. Always interesting to try new beers from different countries and things, so please do let me know. There will be many more Danish reviews for you to come because I am just over the water from Denmark, so I do quite like to go over there. But I thank you for watching my beer reviews. Until the next one, please like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff, and I hope you're enjoying this kind of mini series of Danish and Swedish reviews that I've been doing for you. Skål!